This is Backdoor Boink, where we welcome every side of everyone. Please note, this is an 18-plus podcast. It's time to put in some earbuds if you don't want to answer awkward questions from your children, family, or friends. I'm Kayla, a certified relationship and intimacy coach.
And I'm MJ, and I brought the lube.
In this podcast, we explore the behind the scenes of a weekly wellness topic. Our goal is to help you feel good, be naughty. Thank you for checking out our After Dark, After Hours podcast. You can find more information, including our YouTube channel, social media accounts, events, Discord, and products at boinked.com. That's www.boink-ed.com. Now, let's get in that back door. Is it just me, or the countdown on the screen, was that a little ominous?
That
was so stressful.
Really stressful. That is like being countdown at IML. Oh, you're almost up. Yellow light is on. Oh.
Yes, we are recording, and today we have a great opportunity to have not one, but two guests with us. We have Mr. Peter and Pup Scout. And what organization are you from?
Go ahead, Scout.
So we're with the New England Leather organization, which is in its relative both infancy and has been around for a while. That centers around the New England Leather competition in November.
Yeah, and that takes place in Provincetown, November 22nd to the 24th.
November 22nd? That's soon.
It is. That's why
All
we're
right.
on this podcast.
Now, before I dig more into that, I am very curious, though, how big is this competition? Like, what kind of turnout do you see?
Scott, what do we do? What did we get about? This is an off-season event in Provincetown, so there's that. We got about 70, maybe 100 people last year.
Yeah, I would say it's varied over the years, but on average, I would say a little over 100 across the whole weekend, because the competition centers on Saturday night, but there are events going Friday, Saturday during the day, and Sunday, and across all of those, sometimes you get folks who can just be there Friday night or just there Saturday night. So I'd average about 100 to 150.
Yeah, the first year I was involved, which was 3 years ago, we had, I think it was 10 contestants, which is an enormous number of contestants. And as the number of contestants go up, so do the attendees. I think we had about 250 that Saturday night, and Friday we had about 100 just attending the event. So
wow.
In off season in Provincetown, we kind of take over. Feels like we're taking over because there's nothing else going on except for us. P-Town loves us for that reason.
That is awesome. I have to admit, up until y'all reached out, I had not heard of this amazing competition. Okay, what was that face about? Speak. People cannot see your face. You have heard about it?
Don't you follow the websites?
That would mean I would have to get out of my business email and No. Okay. Ain't nobody got time for that.
To that point, I think there's something, it's the leather community has always been a somewhat underground subculture. And there's certainly more attention to it these days, and we are growing in awareness. But there is something kind of delightful about being somewhat under the radar of the larger, I would say, kind of cisgender, heteronormative world, because that's what's kept us safe for so long in this community, is being under the radar. So it doesn't surprise me that maybe folks don't know about it. And I think that coming to light and having conversations like this in a more public forum really does shed light on the history, the importance, the community that we represent.
Yeah, to that point, this is a regional contest. New England itself. I think it came out of a Boston contest and arrived in Provincetown. It was 11 or 12 years ago. And there are regional contests all over the country, culminating in the larger contest, the two large contests, which is IMSL, which is I don't know where it is this year. Scout, do you know where IMSL is this year?
I think it's New Jersey.
New Jersey, yep.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the granddaddy of them all, which is IML, which has been around since 1978 or something like that. I mean, it's been around a very long time, and that will bring in 10 to 15,000 people to Chicago for that event. And that has been a Memorial Day weekend for a very long time. And in fact, it's listed under the Illinois and Chicago Tourism Board because there's a leather archives in a museum and all kinds of things that fly around that particular contest weekend. And that's a very big money earner for the city, and they love us when we go there. So.
Holy moly. All right, so what is IMSL, what does that stand for?
International Miss Leather, and then IML is International Mr. Leather.
Gotcha.
And they are both international contests. IML draws 50 to 65 contestants from all over the world that fly into Chicago. And then it gets narrowed down to 20 during a weeks-long competition. And they do it all over again in a day. So when you are in that competition, Pup Scout and I have been in that competition. You get to meet people from all over the world. And there's this real sense of brotherhood and camaraderie. It was probably the most fraternal experience I've ever had. These contests that are local are like that, but IML's even more so. It just sort of ramps everything up. And I'm still in touch with people I competed with back in 2014 and 2018.
I had a different IML experience. I did not feel as brotherhoody fraternal. I'm also like non-binary, so like brotherhood was like, I'm not really a brother, so I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
But I am a lifelong Girl Scout, and so like I've had those experiences, which were very community-oriented and bonding in much more affirming ways than what I experienced at IML personally.
Well, I appreciate you bringing both perspectives about what your experience was in that. Pup Scout, how many times have you competed?
Just the one. In 2023.
Okay. And Mr. Peter?
I did it in 2014, and then I did it again in 2018. Very unusual to do that. I was living in Texas at the time. My first time, it was for Mr. Austin Leather, and the second time was Mr. Texas Leather, both regional contests. The second time I did it, I went up on stage because they needed a third person in my local contest, because of 3 people, it's a better contest. And I had a very good friend who was competing, who I assumed was going to win. So I went into thinking, man, I'll be there to sort of support him. It'll be fantastic. And look, I won. Oh my God, I was kind of sad that I did that, but I was asked by the promoter, you should go and do it a second time. And so I did. I actually decided to do it and challenge myself and do it inexpensively. So I did it as a project and wrote a small pamphlet on how to do IML for less than $2,000, which was sort of the tips and tricks of how to save money.
Wow. Yeah. Leather's not cheap.
It's travel expenses. It's the airfare. It's the hotel. And some competitions offer, unlike NEL offers their winner airfare and hotel accommodations as part of their package. But some contests offer nothing. The first time I did it, I got $200 that was collected by tips from the drag queens who were at my contest, and that was it. And so I had to do it on my own dime. The second time, Texas had a fairly large kitty, which they insisted that I use to travel all over the state, and eventually I am. So
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So specifically the New England Leather competition that you have on November 22nd, that one, the winner will get paid hotel, paid airfare to the international.
Lots of other goodies too.
Lots of other goodies.
All
Okay.
sponsors, generous sponsors.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay. Do you have all your contestants already lined up?
I think we have 3 confirmed contestants, and we typically would get 2 or 3, possibly 2, possibly 3 more before the competition. I know 2 people that have already called me and asked me about it. So I'm hoping that we get 5. Would be nice, don't you think?
Okay. So if somebody wanted to apply, what's the criteria for them to apply? Where would they do it?
Well, this year is unique because we are allowing for or making space for all different identities in the competition. So this is, for the first year, the winner will be able to choose their honorific. So they can be Mr. New England Leather, they can be Ms. New England Leather, they could be Mixed New England Leather, they could be Rabbi New England Leather, like whatever their honorific that would be fascinating. I'm here for that.
Yeah.
But it is a choose your honorific, and then the winner will be able to choose whether they compete at International Mr. Leather or IMSL, International Ms. Leather. And so because of that, I think we're going to see a larger class of all different gender identities on stage celebrating leather community. So I think we're really excited to see what the class looks like, who's competing, and the different identities represented in that. To compete, the application is on our website.
neleather.org. Simple as that, neleather.org. And I will say that we are making, to Scout's point, we are making a concerted effort to reach out to everyone other than, sorry, how do I say this? Reach out to a broader audience, which is one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast. We've reached out to every single leather or kink club that we can think of in New England. In fact, if there's any that we haven't reached out to and they hear this, please reach out to us because we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you or your representative at the event itself.
That is awesome. My heart is singing for the recognition of all the genders, the whole grayscale, beautiful rainbow scale. I think, not that I've been to one of these, but now I definitely want to go. I think with that level of inclusivity, you might find really creative looks even as well. So
right. It's more than just looks, though. I mean, it's about the individual. I think in Scout, you can talk to this too. I think the interview of the structure of these contests is probably the number one most important aspect of the entire thing, and that's done in a private interviewee contestant to the judges privately, and that takes place on Saturday morning. I think that's probably the most important thing. If you can win the interview, you've got a good chance to win the competition. But if you don't win the interview, it would be very rare if you didn't. It's about the internal person, not necessarily just their looks.
And to that point, I think it's worth kind of thinking about, like, what is the competition? Like, what are the criteria? What's associated with competing?
Yeah.
And to Peter's point, that interview, which is, there's Friday night of the competition weekend, there's a meet and greet. People get to know each other. That's a really good opportunity for contestants to have some FaceTime with the judges, to start getting to know them. The judges get to know the contestants and really kind of see how folks interact in a crowd. Then Saturday morning or Saturday, late morning, early afternoon is the interview. And that is the contestant with the panel of judges. It is time limited, and they are peppered with questions from everything from, like, tell us about your identity. Tell us what you want to do with the title. Tell us what leather means to you. One of my favorite questions I love to ask is, like, what is your most important or valuable to you piece of leather, and what's the story behind it?
Both Scott and I have been judges, and so we have our favorite questions to ask.
What's your favorite question?
I usually look at what they were wearing, and I look and I ask, what is that pin on your vest for, and why do you wear it? What I want them to be, and what I want to find out is, I want to hear something personal. I want to know what they're thinking about. I think a lot of people think this is just a sort of a superfluous, so whoever wears the best outfits will win the competition, or whoever acts the sexiest will win. No. It's the person who can express their true authentic self. And when you're in an interview, it's like a job interview. You wear clothing of how you want to be perceived, and then I want to see if what you're wearing matches what you really are. So that's what I look for.
Because you are applying for a job. The being the representative for the New England leather community is a job. And so what is your platform? What do you want to do with this? I think is really important. So that interview is probably the highest point percentage of the overall score. Yeah,
40%,
I believe it's something like that. And then Saturday night is the very public competition. So whereas the interview is very personal, the competition Saturday night is everybody is welcome, and there is pieces of that competition. So you have different looks that, whether it's your bar look, what you wear to the leather bar, what you wear out on a Friday or Saturday night. There is your formal look, which is leather formals have historically looked a particular way, but there's a lot of creativity in what that means now.
Yeah, recently it's gone from not just formals, they've taken the word formal out of it to your highest expression of whatever that might be. If you're a puppy, if you are a leatherman, if you are a dominatrix, if you are an age player, I mean, whatever your highest expression is, that's what you wear for that formal look. And of course, there's the other one, which is what are we calling it this year, Scout? Is it the sexiest look, or the body positivity look, or what do you want to call it?
Yeah, it is like what makes you feel sexy.
Yeah.
And there could be a lot of overlap between the other looks, but what is your sexy look? And, in eras past, it was like pecs and personality, and I use air quotes for that.
Yeah.
Moving away from that, because it's not about pecs. It's more about your personality and your sexuality in that personality.
And your comfort in your body as well. That was the reason why that category originally created, was to see how comfortable you are in your own skin. But that doesn't mean you have to be in a jockstrap and bare feet. You could wear whatever you want, but how do you express your sexiness? That is up to the competitors.
There's 2 spoken pieces of the competition that night. The first is a pop question, and the pop question, you pull it out of a hat. You don't know what you're going to get asked, and the pop question is fun. It's intended to be both thinking on your feet, but have fun with it. And it can be things for like, what is your ideal first date? Or something like that.
What was your pop question?
My pop question was, I loved my pop question, and I was told it's the worst pop question ever.
Yeah.
Because my pop question was, you are marketing a energy drink to the queer community. What is the name of your energy drink? What does it do? And like, sell us on it. And
you've got like a minute.
And
short answer, make them laugh. Yes.
For me, as a trans advocate and non-binary on that stage, of course I'm going to make it a little bit about that. So I said that my energy drink was gender fluid, to taste the rainbow of gender expression. And I just went off I barely remember what I said, but I just went off a sales pitch of like, the thing I do remember is I turned around at the very end and said, it'll leave you thirsty for more.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
That's where I was like, I got this. Like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that was a brilliant answer.
It was fun.
Yeah.
So that the pop question is one part of the spoken competition. The last is a personal statement, and it's a 90-second presentation to the audience of who you are, why this is important to you, and what you hope to do with your title.
Yeah.
And you hear all sorts of amazing, beautiful stories come out, and it really does give the audience the opportunity to hear directly from the contestant why, who and why you're up there.
It's the this is the last chance to impress the judges, and they actually try to confirm all the things that you've presented up to that point. The pop question is a fun one because it should be funny, it should be clever, and even the most confident, amazing people clutch under that pop question, because that's sort of an exercise. Whereas the speech you can prepare,
right?
A little more preparation, so it's fun. Those pop questions scare the heck out of everybody, and I know. Well, you've had a good one. I've had bad ones, and I've had good ones.
I've had bad ones before, but not in this context, but in other contexts. Yeah. I love that kind of thinking on your feet, and that's just fun.
You're special.
I don't drink energy drinks, but I would absolutely drink gender fluid.
Right,
like
gender
you
fluid.
sold that.
Yeah, I was asked. My favorite pop question I've ever asked is, pick a movie, the best movie you've ever seen, and who would star you in your favorite movie. On my back, I have a 22-inch striped bass, and I'm a fly fisherman. So I said, well, of course, I'm going to pick River Runs Through It. I turned around and showed my tattoo. And I said, and I would like the greatest living actor to play me, and that would be Meryl Streep. So that was, the audience roared. It was great. I think that's what cinched the Texas title for me.
What? This one's over here trying to hold in his chuckle. That was...
Yeah.
You managed to make him crack a smile. That is...
Oh, I'm impressed. Thank you.
Perfect.
Good, yeah.
All right, so before I ask more about the history of the leather community, I do want to know previous title holders. What are some of the things that they have used the title to accomplish?
Scout, do you want to talk about people like Guy Baldwin, or how far back do you want to go?
I know, right? There's been a lot of different platforms, and I think for me, what's most important with the competitions, whether it be the local, the bars, or the international competitions, is really representing aspects of your identity in inclusive ways. So we've had folks who, their platform was about disability and access and accessibility in these competitions. And so they made their title years about making space and accessibility.
Jeffrey Payne is one of them. He was a he ran my contest, but when he won for Mr. IML, his major speech was about going deaf because he really was going to lose all of his hearing within years. We've had people in wheelchairs win. We've had trans people win. We've had in the 80s, we had people with AIDS win. And so it really, every year, it's been going on for a long time, the winner typically would express something that is pretty much relevant of the moment. I think in 2018, we had Jack Thompson win, and he was a man of mixed race, trans man of mixed race. And so he said his speech was all about, I am enough. And I always doubted myself. Am I enough? Am I black enough? Am I man enough? Am I enough? And I decided I am enough. And it was a brilliant speech, beautifully crafted. It made everyone just weep because it got everybody in that audience to think about their own, are they enough? And it was a great speech.
There's been some really great platforms around mental health to think about, aspects of toxic masculinity and the ways that we handle stress and anxiety and depression, and to really bring that to light and to say, I can be up here and feel so good and so affirmed, but we need to talk about what happens off stage and what happens when we are all alone and in our most vulnerable spaces, and to then raise money for organizations doing that work and raise awareness for these things in our community to really advocate for marginalized experiences, healthcare, wellness,
homelessness, depression, weight issues, body conscious spectrum. You name any human condition, then you're going to find an IML contestant where that is one of the things that they are going to try to solve and help.
Something that is their lived experience that they are bringing.
Yeah, either through their own family experience or their own personal experience. Hunger, I mean, you name it. Cancer.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
The nice thing about having a title, the reason why someone would want a title is that there's a lot of there's a lot of mistrust out there of strangers coming to an organization. So if you have a title, you have been publicly vetted. People know who you are. You're a well-known person, so you can call up any gay organization saying, "Hey, I'm Mr. New England Leather, and I would like to come and talk to your organization about youth homelessness." The title allows you easier access to promote whatever your cause or what you need to do and how you need to deliver it. Anyway, it's part of it's like what good is a title unless you use it for the good,
That's amazing. Yeah. I am getting more and more invested in this as we go. All right, before we talk about the history, did you have any questions that came up?
Nope.
You're here to look pretty.
That's my job.
Okay.
Look pretty off camera. I beg your pardon.
Yeah. I'm just going to tilt it again. Smile.
Oh, he's cute.
Isn't he? I like him.
Oh, look at
pretty
that.
Good.
Great.
I like the little scritches on the beard. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
I'll keep him. I've broken this one in. We're good.
Got it.
Broken in or broken?
Both?
Both.
Definitely both. Why not both? All right. So fill us in on the history of the leather community in general, how this sort of competition came to be. What does it mean to be in the leather community?
So, Scott, are we going to go back to the 1940s, or what are we going to do?
Yeah, so going back to the 1940s, after World War II, there were a lot of gay men who were coming out of the service and looking for community, looking for masculinity, celebration of masculinity and strength and community. And so thus the leather community was a part of what came out of that. I'm getting into I do teach LGBTQ plus history up at UNH.
That's why he's answering the question.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm super nerdy into this.
I also have to, people can't see you, but this cute little hand clasp under your chin, rocking back and forth. I am so excited. I am in my happy place.
Yeah.
Pup Scout, the name just, all the things. Okay, sorry.
So the leather community, so it came out of that time, but also as a sense of community and protection. And you'll hear the term in the leather community, old guard. which was kind of part of what's established in that time. A lot of protocols for how we engage with one another, how we protect one another, and also super problematic at times. So like the old guard was such a factor of its time in the 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way up through the 80s, because it did protect community, but it protected in ways that also put up barriers and made some gatekeeping aspects of community. So I never wanted to discredit or disregard the importance of old guard, but I also want to recognize that it did also leave people out and caused people to not always feel welcome in those spaces.
Yeah, Scott, I will tell you that I came of age in the 80s, and I hate the term old guard because it all depends. Like 10 years ago, there was old guard. 10 years of what, that was. So to me, it's the old leather traditions came out of a military base. And that's where rules of etiquette and roles even rigidly within that community happened. And as the civil rights era loomed, there was a tremendous amount of sexual freedom that occurred out of that. Then it became this sort of like secret society situation that for a long time, I'm sure and I'm going to fast forward through a lot, and you can stop me whenever you want, Scout, but for a while, gay leathermen were depicted in the movies as rebels. Rebel Without a Cause was a classic film with Marlon Brando, and that set the tone for the look of what a leatherman is today. There's a thin line that goes back to that. And then as time went on, I think when the leather community became more inclusive, which really was in this last millennium. I mean, since around 2000, when trans awareness happened, there were lots of discussions among leather clubs. For a while, they were men only. There was discussion, and I can be as frank about this as I can. Are trans men or not? And there was a hugely divided among people. I know. Well, but this is the discussions people had, and it took a bit of time for that male dominant, traditional male dominant attitude to change. And I think it has changed. I think it has changed for the better. At least I've seen that over the years. And so here we are today. We have our roots in toxic masculinity, I would say. But I think that given the the regional contests, I would say that the embracing feminine side within the leather community is happening. And our organization, opening it up to all genders, is another evidence of that. And I think a lot of other organizations, MX titles are emerging. So it's a much broader range. You'll still see signaling. This is a very masculine type of situation, but you'll see women wearing this cover and following protocol across all genders and sexual orientations, not just gay. Anyway, does that make sense, Scout, or did I say anything amiss? Because you are very, very good at listening to me.
Yeah, and I would say, so for me, being trans and non-binary in this space has been a journey. When I first discovered leather community, I love telling this story. I was a first-year freshman in college on the West Coast, and I stumbled upon, without being aware what I was stumbling upon, Folsom Street Fair in San Francisco. Truly, my friends and I were just let's go to San Francisco for the day. Okay. And just stumbled into this situation. And
Scout, what year?
That was 2003, 2004. I can't remember.
Things change quickly, so I know where the world was at that point. Okay.
And at the time, I had not transitioned, but I was a gender nonconforming, gender fluid, gender fuckery individual, and still am a gender fuckery individual, to be fair.
Can I borrow that?
Absolutely.
Gender fuckery, yes.
Let's just engage in some gender fuckery, which is, I was very visually in that space, stumbling into Folsom Street Fair. And I got the message that I was not welcome there. Fairly clearly. This was, you don't belong here. You are not a cisgender man, and so you don't belong. And I internalized that for many, many years. I do not belong in leather community because that is only for cis men, and I am particularly, that is only for cisgender gay men, and I am queer, bisexual, non-binary, gender fucker. So that's not for me. And many years later, I kind of started exploring again, I want to be out in leather community. This resonates, this makes me feel gender euphoria. Leather for me is gender euphoria. We can get into that.
That's a really good word. Oh yeah.
That's a strong instant connection for some of us there. You hear that word and you're just, oh yes.
Well, people focus so much on gender dysphoria that we don't talk about gender euphoria. And for me, leather is gender euphoria. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna break down my internalized stigma and barriers, and also break down what barriers I have seen and experienced in my life. And so I said, fuck it, I'm gonna run for a title without knowing a whole lot about it, frankly. I had friends who had been title holders. I had friends who were involved in the community, and I said, I'm gonna do this because as a non-binary trans-masc person on that stage, I want my gender euphoria in that moment, and I wanted to take up that space because I deserve that space as well as do all trans-masc, non-binary, all identities deserve that opportunity and space. But it came out of the experience of not feeling welcome.
Yeah, but Scout, I would say that you are one of the examples, and I can cite many other Leathermen examples that had a similar experience, and you have a talent, honestly, to make people feel comfortable who are uncomfortable. And the same is true of Jack Thompson. The same is true of there's been 3 IML winners over the years. I think the first one is in 2010 or something like that. I can't remember exactly, where trans men have stood on the podium. It's a wonderful thing, and I think one of the things that a title holder does is lead by example, and I think you're an example of that.
As are you, Mr. Peter. You are a great example.
I'm the old fart now. I'm the old man in the room. Is what. But
also, and let me just say this, which I think is so important in this space, in leather community and queer community in general, is the importance of curiosity. The importance of having curiosity for different experiences that are outside your own. And Mr. Peter, you do that. You have curiosity. You ask questions.
Yeah.
I think that is some of the beauty of leather community where we are. There's such curiosity in what it means to be who you are and what you're representing on that stage, and that authenticity that you bring to the space. People are curious. They want to learn more. And so whether you're a pup, whether you're, a leather dominatrix in a predominantly cis gay space, there's going to be curiosity. There's going to be questions. And if you can approach those questions with that same level of curiosity and empathy, I think it's really an exciting space to be in.
One of my favorite experiences was in a heterosexual kink space. And I had a woman come up to me and said, I have my husband and I need to teach him how to give a blowjob. And I need a gay man to teach him how to give a blowjob.
Yes.
And I said,
oh no.
Oh no. Must I really?
So she found another straight man and he had to give the straight man a blowjob. It was a big scene. It was, oh my God. And there are 7, as you know, there are 10 steps to the perfect blowjob, which I am not going to repeat.
Why?
Oh,
please.
Oh, no.
Are we going to have to do a separate podcast, a separate episode on that?
We can discuss the technique, but there are specific steps that you take. I've got an article somewhere in it. So.
Send it to me, please. People will want to know this. Do you know the 10 steps?
The secrets of gay men giving blood.
I just got a side eye. I feel this is information that needs to be shared. It is maybe not as important as all the great things that the New England leather community is doing. But
yes. Thank you.
That's going to be the follow-up podcast.
Yes.
Mr. Peter talking about the 10 steps.
You think I'm joking? I'm making a to-do list of stuff here. There is one last thing I wanted to circle back to because you brought it up and it had actually been on my list of questions that I came up with, and it is that we've thrown around the term old guard, especially when we're talking about kink. And when you think old guard, you instantly think of leather. At least that's the mental image that comes to me. Would you say that it is more welcoming now? It sounds like there's lots of work towards it. Is old guard still a thing that exists?
It's a choice between 2 people, how they want to be.
Okay.
If 2 people decide we're going to be an old guard couple, and there's going to be a sir and a boy, and that's how it's going to be, and that is negotiating between just like any successful marriage or partnership, you did negotiate between the 2 people.
Gotcha.
What other people think about that? Who cares?
Love
Who cares?
There's
And
negotiation.
if someone wants to be fluid and play across all things, that's fine. They just need to be their authentic self. That's how people should approach it.
Gotcha. So it's less about how they're interacting with others. It's how they're interacting with each other now. It's the negotiations of like the contract that what are you making faces about?
I'm still stuck. Negotiations? What's this?
Oh my gosh.
Ah.
Ha. Ha ha.
You say you say jump. I'll just how high?
Yep. Good boy.
We negotiated that before.
Yeah.
But to the point of, I think it is about a relationship between two people, but it can also be about your individual relationship with leather. So for me, there is this kind of personal aspect. For me, the cover that Mr. Peter showed earlier, and I know this is a podcast, so folks can't see it, but a cover.
Mom,
that
look what I'm doing! Look what I'm doing! Oh my God, I'm
You're
driving
such a
crazy.
tease.
But a cover, the muir cap, if you will, is another name for what he's wearing, and folks can Google that and take a look. For me, I don't have a cover, a muir cap in that style, because to me, an aspect of Old Guard that I have embodied for myself is I have to earn that. There is an aspect of muir cap that I am engaged in, and I'm working with a good friend in the community to help me earn my muir cap. And through community service, through self-exploration and learning more about myself in these spaces, I have to earn it. But that's something I learned from Old Guard, kind of protocols of you have to earn parts of your leather. My other aspects, like my leather pants, I didn't have to earn those. My jacket, I didn't have to earn that. Like, I do have a lot of secondhand pieces, which is another part of Old Guard mentality. But that's something that it's important to me, that I wanted to do that. And it's not about my relationship to anybody else but myself. Now, I'm very much an Old Guard person in the terms of, like, I don't walk 10 steps behind my sir or daddy. I don't, things like that are part of that Old Guard mentality. But you can learn from it, and you can take parts of Old Guard that resonate for you and build that into your expression or your relationships. And there's nothing wrong with it.
And I'm going to add something else to this. There's a lot of discussion about this cover, our covers, and among certain groups and certain groups of people, being an awarded one is a very sacred and important step, particularly for community service. I got this one for community service a long time ago. But what Scout is referring to of Old Guard, some people like the structure that some of the old military rules were, which is all based in military protocols. And there's a sense of belonging. And if you go into a space where like a formal leather dinner that's declared a formal leather dinner, and dress code is enforced, and those Old Guard etiquette, it's all etiquette. Those Old Guard etiquette is enforced, and you don't buy into any of it, you really shouldn't go, because you're going to feel very uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
It's really, again, it's about how you want to exist in yourself and with your partner or partners. I know couples and groups of men who live and women who live together. Anyway, it's
polycules. Yay!
Polycules. Oh yeah, that's the word. Oh my God,
Yes.
God, I love that word. So it's a personal choice, and like a lot of things that are personal choices, I don't pay attention, or I ignore, or I correct people who start to criticize other people's choices. It doesn't affect them at all. So the thing that annoys me is when people criticize how other people choose their life and how they want to live.
Thank you for breaking that down from a younger generation. The explanation that you provided of Old Guard. For a younger generation, a lot of stigma with Old Guard comes from that term that you used earlier as well, gatekeeping. This idea that Old Guard, you mentioned, is, yes, parts protection, but part gatekeeping. But you're describing it as a dynamic with a community built in. Just like we would say kink is a community, but we could break that down into leather or rope. And your sub-community under leather, one of them is going to be that Old Guard. And I love that. That is a much more welcoming view. So I think by having you here and explaining that, it's great. It makes me more excited to take a look into that world. I would love if we could do follow-up episodes on, yes, the 10 steps of a great blowjob, but also what Old Guard protocol might include. You've thrown out a couple of things. So
wow.
Hopefully that
books out there that
my God, yeah. The amount of literature on that.
That would be a long podcast. Is that what you're saying?
It would, but it would be fun to chat more about. I would also encourage you to do is, people have very different experiences in leather community and different expressions and different relationship structures. For you as well as your listeners, consider coming to Provincetown in November for the leather weekend and seeing that on stage and seeing that celebrated. Hey, maybe a live podcast while you're there or something like that.
Something like that would be sweet. Wouldn't that be nice? We could search
But it's really an opportunity to see, here's somebody who's taking this part of Old Guard and making it their own. But to see everybody playing in that space, making it their own and finding their own joy with it, I think is such a beautiful part of the experience.
Yeah. I just have to point out that you said, come down, take a look at the competition in November. And MJ's head went, yes.
I would love that. I would love.
Do you like leather? I know the answer to that, but you have to vocalize.
Who doesn't?
That's an awesome answer too.
Leather, you're not required to be in full leather for the weekend. Okay, that's not the requirement. You can buy leather when you're there. There's ample places to do it. But
do you have vendors that come in for that or anything?
There's actually we have this particular actually. Pup, we were talking about a Saturday afternoon where we'd have a vendor plus a pup mosh, plus I'm doing demos. But then in Provincetown, there are 2 leather stores that you can go to. One of them is Full Kit Leather down the street. They sell everything.
What I would also say is if you're exploring your leather look, and there's a lot of looks out there that you can play with, coming to a leather weekend and seeing how other people wear their leather, I got great ideas when I was at IML. I'm in the process of putting together a leather look that's a National Park Ranger in leather look. Because a lot of people do like the police look or the military. But I saw one person who did a full Mountie uniform in leather and my head spun. And I was like, I could do National Park Service in leather, which is very much Pup Scout kind of feel. But you get ideas like that and inspiration when you see how other people get creative with it.
Yeah, it truly... Your high leathers are truly a self-expression. I'm actually usually go the opposite direction, which is kind of scary because I've had so many different outfits over the years. Now I've grown so fat I can't fit in any of them anymore. So consequently, I wear the most beautiful. I have the most interesting T-shirts that I wear as part of my leather, and I don't think anyone else does. But a T-shirt is not traditional leather at all. But I have them, and I wear them, and they usually have a statement of some sort. And someone always says, "What? Yes."
Back to the asshole commentary shirts. You two would get along great.
Something like that.
His chosen wardrobe. I think if we could afford more leather, maybe it would be asshole T-shirts and leather.
All you need is a good pair of boots.
Just
in my opinion, the only thing you need in a leather is a good pair of either leather tennis shoes or even, to me, better pair of boots. And that's your primary. That's the first thing you buy when you're in.
Okay. So I do have 2 questions, and they might be faux pas kind of questions.
Go for it.
So let's see how it goes. Okay. So my 2 faux pas questions. Yeah. You said they don't have to come in all leather. So if people do want to come for the weekend, what if they don't have any leather? They just want to be a voyeur and learn and immerse themselves.
Well, I'm going to presuppose if they have interested in doing this community that they are kinky in some way.
Right.
They have some kind of kink interest. So there must be a piece or a garment or a detail that if you're going to go to the contest night, which is where you wear your highest expression, you do a nod to whatever that kink might be. If you're into flogging or rope, you might wear a rope harness or something around your some accessory, some piece of accessory, and then the rest you do what you do. You wear whatever you like.
Gotcha. So something to just give a nod to that you're in the BDSM, the kink
in the
community.
Yeah, get in the spirit of it. Think of it as something. If you were going to go to a party where these sorts of things are going to happen, what would you wear to that? And you'll see people even in November in Provincetown, you'll see them in jockstraps and boots, and so it's going to be a pretty broad range. During the rest of the weekend, brunches and so forth, be comfortable. Just wear comfortable clothes, and you'll wear what makes you feel comfortable. And if you're curious about what someone's wearing, I would step up and ask them about it. Say, where did you get that? Or tell me about what that is. Use it as an educational experience and really enjoy the vibe that happens around it. Because it's a very, very friendly group of people in general. That's really what these weekends are. It's like a tribe coming together.
That's fantastic. I think that if you give a kinkster an excuse to express themselves, they're absolutely going to jump on that bandwagon. That's why we do munches. That's why we hold classes and have community space.
Munches is such a straight term. I've been fascinated by that term for the last 30 years.
Really?
Yeah, we don't use it in gay male circles.
What is there a similar term that you use?
Meetups, whatever. Scott, we were talking about the term munch, like a munch. That's a very heterosexual term.
Well, a munch. Go ahead. I see you taking.
I know what it means. I've been to them, but it's something gay men don't use.
In the swinger world, they call it a meet and greet. Just a vanilla meet up, get to know people.
Yeah, munches is a hangout. It's not play. It's just
Sure.
Okay.
I would say a night at the Eagle would be the equivalent of just like going to an Eagle bar. Would be the equivalent of a munch, and I've been to munches.
Yeah.
A lot of the munches that I've been to have like that meet and greet element, but then there's usually like a play party afterwards.
Yeah.
Or, let's all go back to so and so's house. They've got like play set up, whatever. So the majority of munches I've been to have been vanilla to begin and less vanilla later.
Gotcha. So one of the participants, maybe that's a suggestion that we should see more around our community, is maybe schedule your play parties for after a munch, and that way if you find people that you want to invite, like, hey, you've got the rest of the night free, let's go from here, and you've really vetted people on that same night. So great tip. This is my second faux pas question, and then I will let you leave. Super faux pas question. I have a lot of clients who are vegan. What is the stance on vegan leather in the leather community? Don't throw stones.
No, not at all. I know title holders that are vegan, so there's that. Scott, you can answer this yourself, but when someone who's vegan and they're into leather, a couple of things they do. One, they either use used leather. They never buy anything new.
Oh.
Never commission anything new. Or they move into the neoprene rubber area. And that's the other thing that they do. But typically a vegan leatherman, and they do, or woman, they do exist, but they typically buy, people are gifted or it's all used. They don't buy new or anything new.
Interesting.
And I think that's also, going back to the earlier conversation, that there's a part of old guard where, your leather shouldn't be, or the majority of your leather. And for me, I personally, I would say 75% of my leather gear is all secondhand, and very purposefully so. I'm not vegan, but I do value the lived-in feeling of nature, of leather, and that kind of nature of it, and the sense of community and history. And so I think a lot of vegans go that route of going with used leather, passed down leather, all of that. I'm fine with, more neoprene or more of the like vegan leather stuff, because the reasons for being vegan can be so part of your identity and your politics, your queerness. And so I never want to gatekeep people from leather community for an aesthetic that, as well as a community history, for the sake of something so important and valuable and political.
Yeah. This hat, I'm the third owner of this hat. And the energy that has been imparted in this hat before it got to me, I can still feel it, and I wear it every day. I wear it whenever I go out or go to any kind of event. I have gauntlets that were gifted to me. All my gifted leather is super special and the most important pieces. And the stuff that I have given out to young leathermen over the years, I love seeing them pass it on to others. I'm now at a point where I've been around so long that sometimes I've seen some things that I've given to others and they've outgrown it and they give it to someone else, and so they just keep on giving.
And one of the things I did with my title year was starting to collect leather from people who had outgrown it to then pass it on specifically to trans community. Because
Fantastic.
Leather is so expensive, and folks who are trans and gender nonconforming, we have so many economic disparities we face. I don't want that to be a barrier. So I have created a pipeline for particularly young transmasc folks who want to get into leather, and like, you don't have any leather but you really want to be it. Here's a harness that was passed down from another transmasc person who outgrew it, or who has since had top surgery so it doesn't fit. So let's pass that on. And so I've got, a couple leather pieces that I'm still looking for homes for the right fit, but I hold on to those with the purpose and desire to see that on trans bodies in celebration and again, gender euphoria.
Yeah, and in fact, what's interesting to me is that I now have rubber pieces, I have neoprene pieces, I have harnesses made of rope. Over the years, you accumulate a pile of stuff, and then it feels right to give it away to people who are new to it, or who frankly can't afford to buy something. But hey, I have this piece. Oh, does it fit you? Good, it's yours.
The generosity in your community is outstanding. It's amazing. This whole interview has been eye-opening on a whole nother level.
One more detail on newsletter.
Okay.
There is a tradition, and I am one of the charter members of Rhode Island Leather Enthusiasts here in Providence. And once a year, we have a leather swap. It takes place at my house. It's a social followed by an after party. And people bring their used leather, and we exchange with each other. We give it to someone else. Usually money doesn't exchange hands, but it's usually, hey, I've got these pair of pants. I don't want these anymore. Do they fit you? Great. You can have them. Or you swap for, I'll mix you a cocktail and you can, I'll mix you a cocktail in those leather gloves. So it's a leather swap, and leather swaps, the term leather swap is very, very common in a lot of leather events. It's becomes a big community that in Chicago Leather Archives and Museum, they have a leather swap once a year, and hundreds of pieces. And for $5 you can get a pair of leather jeans or
amazing
thing. Yeah. So it's pretty.
That's the way it's been.
Yeah.
That's history. That is leather history.
I've given hankies to people. I mean, just giving gifts, hankies, and other sorts of personal items. We give pins to each other.
I love pins.
Personal pins, and I give a personal pin to everyone I know.
I wish I had done pins my title year. I didn't do them, and I regret that a little bit. A lot of title holders will make pins for their title year that they pass out to all of their classmates, their community, and all that kind of stuff.
I'll design you a pin, Scout, if you want, and then you can order 200 of them and keep them on hand and give them out.
I would love that.
I'm happy. I design pins all the time. I'm happy to do that for you.
Making magic. Yes, please, Mr. Peter. I would love it.
It'll look similar to a Girl Scout patch, if that's okay.
Oh my gosh. I wish everybody could see Pup's face right now.
So when I during my step down for my title year, I actually they gave me a Girl Scout sash, and one of the former title holders, Steve, hand embroidered a green Girl Scout beret for me. Not leather, but in the style. So the Scout thing for me is super important. So yes, a pin that looks like a Girl Scout patch would be
round,
amazing.
We'll do something.
Yeah, maybe a little aspect of boot. Yeah, something like that.
You'll have to circle back so we can tag that on our Instagram or something. That's amazing. That reminds me, before we say goodnight, do either of you want to drop any handles, any Instagram? I know you already gave the website. That was neleather.org, but anything else?
Yep. So my Instagram is Leather Pup Scout, at Leather Pup Scout. Super easy to remember because it's Leather and Pup Scout. And would love folks to follow along.
Yeah, I have an Instagram account for my demos and classes that I teach all over the country, and that is Mr. Peter PVD. That's it. Simple.
Mr. Peter, what was that?
MR Peter, P as in Peter, V as in Victor, D as in David. That's PVD, or Providence. It's called Providence.
Perfect. All right. We will make sure to tag you in this as well. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. This was a great conversation, and I'm excited for future conversations too.
Yep.
Agreed.
Thanks again for listening to this podcast. I started Boink in 2022 with the goal to create a safe environment and culture for all genders and sexual orientations, to learn about and embrace every part of themselves and one another. We offer workshops, events, and various inclusive products, along with consultations, to make sure we take a holistic approach to enhancing individuals' sexual satisfaction with themselves or their partners. I believe that when you accept yourself and your partner on the most intimate of levels, it filters out into your daily life. The The World Health Organization recognizes this, saying sexual health is fundamental to the overall health and well-being of individuals, couples, and families, and to the social and economic development of communities and countries. So as long as you'll have us, Boink will be here. Kink-affirming, gender-blurring, sex-fulfilling. And you can find any of our details at www.boink-ed.com.